Greg Brown's world crumbled when a stranger knocked, bearing proof of his wife's infidelity. Little did he know how drastically his life would change in just 48 hours. Greg, a talented architect, had always known his calling, unlike his indecisive friends. He had set his sights on architecture in junior high. After earning his bachelor's degree from the University of Maryland, family obligations delayed his grad school dreams. Instead, he landed a job at a prestigious Northern Virginia firm, starting as a humble draftsman. Frugal living allowed Greg to save for grad school. Accepted into a Purdue's program, he juggled classes with a flexible drafting job for a local engineering firm. Late nights in the cafeteria became his norm, hunched over a computer. It was there he met Jane, a beautiful waitress and single mom. Despite her modest appearance, Greg was instantly drawn to her. Coffee refills led to chats, and soon a mutual attraction blossomed. When Greg asked her out, Jane's financial struggles nearly derailed their date. However, Greg, undeterred, offered to cover the babysitter. Their first meeting at Jane's apartment was a turning point. Greg was smitten, not just with Jane, but also her adorable daughter, Joyce. Over the next few months, their love deepened. Greg embraced Jane's single motherhood, while Jane cherished his acceptance of her little family. She confessed to having her baby out of wedlock. She had been with her high school sweetheart, got pregnant in community college, and refused his plea for an abortion. He left, and she struggled alone. Social services and family helped, but she worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. After dating for a while, Greg proposed. Jane was ecstatic, finding a man who loved both her and her child. They moved to Northern Virginia, where Greg landed a high-paying job. They rented a spacious townhouse and soon welcomed their son, Richie. Greg excelled as an architect but yearned to design houses. When Joyce was 7 and Richie 5, he found their dream home, a mansion with potential for his home business. The $740,000 price tag didn't deter him. He saw its value. 12 years on, Greg's home design career flourished. He patented innovative ideas, including low-cost houses and folding homes for developing countries. His basement showcased a model of an affordable house, cementing his reputation as a versatile architect. The house's design allowed for seamless additions, growing with the family's needs and finances. Jane, seeking purpose beyond motherhood, pursued real estate. Greg supported her decision, seeing it as a chance for her to explore interests outside the home. Jane excelled in her new career, quickly becoming a top agent and later a managing broker. As Jane's success grew, so did her time away from home. Greg stepped up, handling more family responsibilities. He made breakfasts, packed lunches, and attended school events. His culinary skills improved as he often cooked with Joyce, experimenting with new recipes. However, the couple's intimacy waned. Jane, exhausted from work, often retired early. Greg's attempts to rekindle their connection fell flat. One spring morning, after dropping Jane at the airport for a conference, Greg returned home to find a white SUV parked outside. A woman, about 5 feet 4 inches with light brown hair and a bun, waited on the porch steps. Greg parked in the driveway, curious about this unexpected visitor. He noticed her lack of makeup, estimating her age at 40 to 45 from the wrinkles. Despite her modest slate blue pants and loose white blouse, her good figure was evident. She spoke first. "Are you Greg Brown?" extending her hand. Greg answered affirmatively. "I'm Barbara Dumont," she continued. "Call me Barbara, and I'll call you Greg." Her serious demeanor was apparent. Inside, Barbara chose the couch, and Greg offered a drink. She requested dark red wine, and he returned with 2 glasses of Cabernet. Soaring, Barbara took several large sips, visibly preoccupied. "What I have to discuss is personal and difficult," Barbara began. "I own Diont Furniture Rental and Staging. My husband, Leonard, works with real estate agents, including your wife's office." Greg's stomach knotted at her tone. "Go on," he said sharply. "I'm sorry, but my husband and your wife are having an affair," Barbara revealed. "It's been going on for over 7 months. They meet weekly in staged houses listed as by appointment only. Greg took a big sip. "Do you have proof?" he asked. "Yes and no," Barbara replied. She explained her suspicions. Leonard's unaccounted time, the smell of perfume, her emotional turmoil. I hired a private investigator to follow him. A week later, they told me he was seen entering a house for sale with a woman. They arrived separately. The woman's car had a real estate agency logo. They'd stay for 2, sometimes 3 hours, then leave separately. My detective agency confirmed the woman was Jane Brown, your wife. This happened weekly, no photos or videos though. That's what today's about. I'm sorry to drop this on you, Greg. I wish someone had told me this way. It would have saved me months of doubt. Greg was speechless. He was about to deny it when Barbara's phone rang. She apologized and answered. Greg heard one side. How's the setup? Rooms ready? Audio and video can we test soon? Okay, thanks. Barbara hung up and asked Greg, can I use your internet? She pulled out a laptop. Greg Robot I Callie typed the password as she booted up. Barbara continued, you just dropped Jane at the airport, right? For that Atlanta real estate conference. Greg nodded. She goes yearly, says it's great for marketing tips, software, networking, like my company, Barbara interjected. I took my husband to the airport earlier, same flight as Jane. He presents on home staging. They're very popular. But Greg added, Jane hasn't booked a hotel room. I think she's staying in my husband's suite. She checked her watch. They should be landing. Expect a call soon. Greg's stomach nodded. What's going on, Barbara? You deserve the truth. I've suspected this for a while. I rented a room at their hotel, had it rigged with cameras. They're streaming live to me and my lawyer. Password protected, of course. Greg's phone rang. Jane's ringtone just landed, her cheery voice saying, how was the flight? Greg asked. Great, blew first class, had a nice lunch, even napped. The company's covering everything. Flight, conference, hotel, and you'll write it off as a business expense, right? You bet, honey. Next year, you should come. We'll make it a vacation. Atlanta's perfect for tourists and lovers, Greg said without thinking. Barbara shot him a warning look. It's a date, Greg quickly added. Even if you're busy with real estate stuff during the day, we'll have our nights. Can't wait to see you in that red negligee. Got to run. Luggage is here. I'll call from the hotel, probably early, for the cocktail party at 7. Okay, baby. I love you. Don't forget that. Love you too, bye. Greg turned to Barbara. I still can't believe she did this to us, to our family. I didn't want to believe it either, Barbara said, but the clues kept eating at me. Now I need to know for sure. She typed on the computer, this is it. The phone rang, her investigator, Paul Drake. I see everything, Barbara said. Image is clear. How do I switch rooms? Paul's voice came through the computer. Can you hear me? Crystal clear, Barbara confirmed. Paul walked through the suite, testing the cameras and audio. They've landed. We'll clean up and head to the lobby. I'll text updates and photos. Thanks, Paul, Barbara said, then called her lawyer to confirm everything was being recorded. She downed her wine and poured another glass. Greg, I'm sorry to put you through this. I'm not sure I would have if you hadn't believed me. Greg grew sullen. I need something stronger, he said, heading for the bourbon. Barbara tried lightening the mood. Tell me about your kids. Joyce is my adopted daughter. She's in her second year of college, living in an apartment nearby, comes home most weekends. And Richie, well, everyone calls him that. A message pinged on Barbara's phone. They've checked in. Attached was a photo of Lenny and Jane, hand in hand at the hotel desk. They heading up, came the next text. Greg, still avoiding the computer screen, grabbed bourbon and slumped onto the couch beside Barbara. She hugged herself, bracing for what was to come. The audio feed crackled to life. A key card clicked, the door swung open. Luggage hit the floor before it closed. Lenny spun Jane around, kissing her passionately. She returned his fervor. No more waiting, baby. Lenny growled without hesitation, and the affair unfolded before Greg and Barbara's eyes. I needed that, Jane purred. Hold on, got to call home. Greg watched as his wife propped herself up, dialing. His phone rang. He answered, still fixated on the screen. Hey, honey, all checked in. Gonna take a nap before heading to social services. Just wanted to say I love you. Lenny settled behind Jane on the bed. Greg, unable to bear more, muttered goodbye, see you Sunday, and hung up. Greg watched Jane's reaction on screen, noting her abrupt end to the conversation. Overwhelmed, he and Barbara couldn't bear to look anymore, both still in tears. Seeking distraction, Greg suggested showing Barbara his basement office. They descended, drinks in hand. Greg's workspace impressed Barbara. CAD systems, modeling tables, and walls adorned with his designs. They settled on the patio, discussing their marriages. Divorce seemed inevitable, though Greg hesitated. Barbara, sole owner of her company, felt financially secure. For hours, they avoided the computer, making sandwiches and soup. Around 10:30 p.m., voices drew them back on screen. Lenny dismissed Jane to call Barbara. "Hey, baby." Barbara answered, teeth clenched. "Hey, doll." Lenny replied, describing the suite perfect for client meetings. Distracted, Lenny rushed to end the call. "Love you? You don't know how much I love you," Barbara responded bitterly. They watched as Jane questioned Lenny about his infidelity. "I love women," Lenny boasted. "Married ones are best. No strings attached." Jane confessed her own indiscretions, revealing her past as a realtor who occasionally slept with clients to close deals. "I guess that makes me she admitted, "but you're my first real affair." Greg and Barbara sat stunned, their world crumbling before their eyes. Barbara grabbed her pen and notepad. "I should go before I'm too drunk to drive. Here's the website and password if you want to watch this train wreck." She scribbled it down, packed up her laptop, and stood. "I'll bring the DVDs Sunday morning. Let me know your plans. I'm confronting my husband right away." Greg walked her out. Back inside, he set up the laptop in the family room. He typed in the site info with shaking hands. After flipping through camera feeds, he found what he dreaded: Jane in bed with Lenny. He drank heavily as he watched, anger and hurt swirling. Sunday afternoon, Jane's cab pulled up. Joyce sat stonily on the porch as her mother struggled with luggage across the lawn. "You could have helped," Jane snapped. "Where's your father? He was supposed to pick me up." "He and Richie are having beers at the park," Joyce replied flatly. Jane fumed. "What the hell is more important than picking me up?" She stormed up the porch steps, fuming. "I'll give him hell when he gets home." She tried the door, locked. "Damn it!" She dug for her keys. Joyce watched, amused, as Jane's key didn't fit. "What the devil?" Jane muttered. "Dad changed the locks yesterday," Mom said. "Why?" "They were fine when I left." Jane turned and noticed garbage bags and boxes piled on the porch. "What's all this?" Joyce stood. "It's your stuff, Mom. All of it. We packed everything Saturday. Clothes, shoes, makeup, jewelry. Take what you can. Richie will store the rest." Jane's stomach churned. "What's going on?" "We know about your affairs, Mom. All of us," Joyce stated. "That can't be. I was so careful." "Maybe, but Leonard wasn't. Barbara hired a pie. They caught you two on camera in Atlanta. Every move, every word, recorded." Jane collapsed on the steps. "Barbara showed Dad Friday night. He kept watching. I found him passed out by the computer Saturday morning when I saw the footage." Joyce's voice cracked. "We told Richie when he got back. How could you do this to Dad?" Jane stared, shell-shocked, as Joyce continued. "We decided to kick you out. Dad agreed. So here we are. You're not spending another day in this house with Dad." Jane stammered. "But where will I go? What will I do?" "Dad rented you a room at the Hilton extended stay near your office, 3 months paid. Barbara did the same for her husband, but only for a month. Maybe you two can swap stories tonight." "I don't want to leave," Jane sobbed. "I love Greg. He's my life." Joyce replied coldly, "You have to go. No one needs you here. Dad's filing for divorce, of course, Monday." "No, please no," Jane pleaded. "Dad's keeping the house. It's his business. And Richie and I will live with him. No child support, since you earn well. Keep your eye up, but you're on your own for everything else now." Jane looked into her daughter's eyes. "How can you be so cold? Dad loved you. He loved me too. I'm his little girl. He took care of us for 20 years. When I learned what you did, it killed my love for you. Why did you do it?" Jane, sobbing, replied, "It started with pressure to sell. A charming man offered to buy if I slept with him. I wanted to prove myself. It became part of the process, not often, maybe twice a year. Other agents did it too. Then Leonard came along, marketing for Dumont's. We flirted, had lunch, held hands. One day, he took me to a house he decorated, and we ended up in bed. That's how our affair began. So you became to sell houses, then for some smooth talker. Joyce spat. Joyce spoke up. You were careful. Mom and Dad didn't suspect a thing, but Mr. wasn't as discreet. Barbara got suspicious and hired a private investigator. She uncovered everything. Please don't do this. This is my home. Greg needs me, Jane pleaded. I don't think so, Joyce replied firmly. Dad's been taking care of us for years. He makes breakfast, packs our lunches, and does the shopping. The only thing he doesn't do is clean. We have a maid for that. He even cooks dinner when you're working late, Jane argued. But your father needs me for companionship and intimacy, Joyce cut her off. Dad's not interested in your company anymore. I'm moving back home. Richie too. We're going to help Dad get in shape, update his wardrobe, and be more social. As for female companionship, I have a few ideas. My divorce teacher, a young widow in my class, even Barbara Deont, Leonard's wife, Jane interrupted. She visited this morning. We all had lunch together, Joyce explained coldly. It's time for you to go, Mom. Here's the key to your new apartment and some DVDs Barbara brought over. Maybe you and Mr. can enjoy them together. Jane collapsed on the porch steps, the reality of her situation sinking in. Ain't there nothing I can do to make this hurt go away, to get another shot, to be forgiven? Maybe time will show us a way forward. Richie and I will likely forgive you someday. You're our ma after all. Paul might come around too, but don't hold your breath. It ain't happening anytime soon. I've got to run, Joyce said, meeting Dad and Richie to plan our future. Goodbye, Mother. With that, Joyce turned and walked away, leaving Joan alone on the porch, surrounded by her belongings. Joan sat there for a long time, tears streaming down her face as the full weight of her actions crashed down upon her. Eventually, she gathered what she could carry and called a taxi to take her to her new, lonely apartment.